Today is also it's brought down in Kabbalah's form from the Arizal that the ninth hour of the ninth day of the ninth month, and they also have the ninth year, which we don't have, ninth year in the Yovel cycle, is there's 9 minutes that are musugal where everything lines up that all our tefillahs go straight to Shemayim, which is the hour of the ninth day of Kislev. It's a more musugal time for schools, especially in Parnasa. I don't know.
What time is that in Toronto?
Oh, so the question is, the question is that in Toronto, which will be sometime in the afternoon, or is that in Eretz Yisrael, like the Moed? So if it's in Eretz Yisrael, it's from 6:41 to 6:50. So I have my alarm clock set from 6:41 to 6:50, and maybe we'll say a kapitel tehillim during that period of 9 minutes, because you're supposed to daven for yourself, for Parnasa de Kazakin, and for others as well. And if it's in the afternoon, so what time is Alois? Alois is what, like 6:30, 7? Right? So count 9 hours. So 7:30, 8:30, 9:30, 10:30, 11:30, 12:30, 1:30, 2:30. It's around 2ish, because it's Tosh Monday is.
What is the 6:08 42?
So it's somewhere between 2 and 3. Somewhere between 2 and 3. So it's brought down to say certain tefillas before mincha, but that is that. So that's today. So the Rosh should help that we should be able to be mechaven the show of the 9 minutes, and we should be zoichen to all of the benefits and the spars from it. Okay, we are way behind. We are on Daf Yutesam base, even though today is really Daf Chav. And I'm going back to Atar Negoylin Mu'adim Lahalach Kedarkon Ulishaver. The Mishnah says that if there was a dalil, is that the lashon? What is it? If there's a something tied on to the animal's foot, to the chicken's foot, what was it called? It's called dalil kosher baraglov. So a dalil pays chati nezek. Omer Afuna loy shonu that when there's a dalil pays chati nezek el shenikshur me'elif. If it got tangled up on the foot of the chicken by itself, and the Gemara at this point is understanding that how did this cause damage? It caused damage because someone tripped over the dalil. Someone tripped, so it was like a bar. If it got tangled up in the foot of the chicken on its own, and it brought it to wherever it brought it, and someone tripped over there. But if someone tied it onto the foot of the chicken, chayiv, it will be chayiv. Correct the Gemara. It says you chayiv chatinezek, right? Our case of the Mishnah says if there's a little kosher, it's chayiv chatinezek. So man chayiv, who's going to be chayiv? Ilema balat lil. If it's the balat lil, well, let's think about it. Hechadam, either atzne, if he put it away in a safe place, it's not his fault that your chicken came and took my thing from my false place. Why should I be mukhlif for the bar? V'loy atzne, and if I wasn't careful, then posheyahu. I'm a posheya, and he should pay nezek shaloi, as Rashi says. V'chuloi nezek boilish lumei sharei boirehu. Elo, what you have to say is chayiv balatanago. The balatanago is chayiv because his chicken created this bar. Frank the Gemara, if you make a bar, you're chayiv. But if your animal makes a bar, you're not chayiv. And here it's your chicken that made the bar. So maishna kulei nezek taloi. Why isn't the owner of the chicken chayiv kulei nezek? Dichsiv kiyif tach ish bar v'loi shor bar. Chati nezek nami ish bar v'loi shor bar. So what is the justification to be mechayiv anybody chati nezek over here? Elo masnisin b'da'adjatuyi. What must have happened was that it wasn't just that this lul was placed somewhere and somebody tripped over it, and that's how it caused problems. Rather, it must have swung and smashed something, meaning it's koichay, meaning it's tzrei rice. So that means Rafuna, who said that's not relevant, because no matter who tied it on to the animal, even if you tied your rope onto my chicken, you're still not chayiv, because this is not a par. This is my chicken's koyach. Well, why would so? Let's have a look at the Mishnah. The Mishnah lists off many different cases. So you want to know what was the chiddush of each case? I mean, I can hear that the chiddush is here that the chiyuv here is als regel, not als bar. But let's look back at the Mishnah. With the Mishnah case of regel, it talks about different cases. The Mishnah lists off many different cases of treros. So why would this be a chiddush? I don't know. That's a good question. I'm not sure. I mean, there's the Mahadis, Mushavish Kelim, all these cases are multiple examples of treros. Why would the Mishnah have to list off so many? I don't know. It's a very good question. So Tosfos points out on Daf Yud Zayin Amud Aleph on the Mishnah by Hosim of Etes, Agav the Shavel at Shirayis Naked Lahacha. So it seems like the Mishnah is giving us a different variation of cases of treros. But your shayla is a good one. You know, once we know treros, so we should be able to apply it on our own, as the Gemara does. The Gemara applies it to other cases that aren't listed in the Mishnah. So Zok the Gemara, it's a case of treros. So then what's Rav Huna talking about? He's definitely not talking about Ad Yaduye, because Ad Yaduye, no matter what, the ball of the chicken, the only the chicken pays Chatzin Nezer. He's just saying a separate halacha not related to our Mishnah. And he said, Delil Hefker. What if there was a Delil of Hefker, a Hefker rope flowing around? If it got tangled up in a chicken's foot, and the chicken brought it somewhere, and wherever it went, it damaged due to bar potter. The other is potter, and there's nobody to be chayiv about the Delil because the Delil is Hefker. But kashre adam, if someone tied it, chayiv, mishumai chayiv, what would he be chayiv for? It's not a bar that damaged where it was. Amarafuna bar manoyach mishum boyrei hamaskalgal baragle adam baragle abeim. It's like a mobile, a rolling bar is also a bar, and you're chayiv for that as well. Okay, gewaltig. Zok the Gemara weiter. Now we're into Shein. Ketzar Hashein Mu'edes. How is the Shein Mu'edes? Lechel asaroy law, to eat food that's roy. If you remember, when we learned the first Mishnah, the Gemara touched this as referring to Achaya. Shein of Achaya is Mu'edes Lechel asaroy law, and then it talks about Behema. And the Gemara asks, why would we talk about Achaya before we would talk about Behema? So the Gemara said, since it's a drosha, Chaya B'chlal Behema, I did the Chavivalei, the Tana mentioned Chaya first. Now, behema mu'edes lechal peiros v'yirokos. It eats fruits and vegetables. Achlok tzus. What if it ate your jacket? Or kalim, or it ate kalim. Mishalach hatinezik. That would be considered keren. It's an anomaly for an animal to eat non-food items, and therefore it falls into the category of keren yipei hatinezik. When do you say? Now, there's going to be a shaila in the Gemara. What is the bamed devar mamurim going on? So I'll read it pasha. That you're chayiv nezek shalim. When an animal eats pears for yerakos, is b'shus hanizik. That's if it was b'shus hanizik. As we know, shein in regel is only chayiv b'stayacher. Aval b'shus harabim potter. But in b'shus harabim, shein in regel will be potter. Let me take a step back. It could also be referring to achlok tzus hakelim. Achlok tzus hakelim is keren, right? It pays chatzin nezek. Chatzin nezek is chayiv even in Rishus Harabim, right? We know that keren is chayiv in Rishus Harabim. Nevertheless, the Mishnah might be saying, "Bamed devar mamurim b'shus hanezek al b'shus Harabim potter." And the question will be, if this is keren, why should it be potter b'shus Harabim? And the Gemara is going to give an answer for that. Vim nehenis. What if it wasn't the derech to eat it, and therefore it would be potter, or it was in Rishus Harabim and it's potter? Mishalem is mash nehenis. If it was a Rishus Harabim, there's no chiv, I'll change the regal to pay full damages, you at least have to pay what you benefited. Now you're not going to have to feed your animal. You saved $5.99, you should pay for it. How do you pay mash nehenis? How do you calculate that? If it ate in the middle of the street, which is Rishus Harabim, where there's no chiv al chain, mishalem is mash nehenis. The Gemara is going to delve into exactly how you evaluate that. How about mitzidei harchava, which is considered Rishus HaYachid? Mishalem is masha zika. You have to pay the full damages of the shein. Mipesach hanus, if it's outside the store, which is Rishus Harabim, mishalem is masha nehenis. If it's from inside the store in the Rishus HaYochid, Mishalem es Mashazik. Tanu Rabban. Hashem Moedes Lechalas Aroila. Ketzad. Be'em Shenichlas Al Chotzer Nizik. V'achla Oichlun Haruin La. V'shasa Mashkin Haruin La. Mishalem Nezek Shalim. V'chein Chayo Shenichlas Al Chatzar Nizik. V'tarfa Behema V'achla Basar Mishalem Nezek Shalim. We spent a lot of time on these words. Remember the Gemara said, if an Ari, it's there is to be Dairis, not to be Tairev. So what's Pshat that it should pay Nezek Shalom, it shall like Kedaka. So the Gemara answered that when is an Ari Tairev, if it's taking it for his family, if it's taking it for its wife, for its den, that's when it's the Derech to be Tairev. So this could also be a case of Derech, even though an Ari normally is only Dairis. Okay, Upara sha'achla sa'irin. If a cow ate sa'irin, which is not normally feed that a cow eats, the chamor shachal kashinin. What are kashinin? Oats. What is it? Vetch. Vetch. It eats vetch, which is not what it normally eats. The chelav. The kelev shalikik is a shemen. A dog that lapped up oil. Again, it doesn't normally do that. The chazir sha'achal chaticha shel basar. Or a pig that ate a piece of meat, Mishalem and Nezek Shalom. They all pay Nezek Shalom. Even though it's not Mamish Derech, but al Yidei Chak, it will eat such things that also falls under the category of care. Amar Papa, now that you just listed us a whole bunch of things that it's not the derech for these animals to eat, but when it doesn't find other food, it will eat that, and therefore it's considered shame. A cat that ate dates, again, it doesn't normally eat dates. The chamer da'achol benisa, or a donkey that ate a fish, mishalem nezek shalom. Hu chamer da'achol nama, there was a chamor that ate bread. It was its derech. But then it went on, upol selasala, it chewed up the basket. Chayli Rabbi Yehuda l'shalem nezek shalom on the hama, comma, the asala chatzi nezek. He only required it to pay chatzi nezek for the salah because that's not the derech to eat at all, and therefore it is considered carrot. Frankly, if the chamor is going to eat the bread, it's normal while the animal is eating the bread, it'll also chomp in to the basket. So why is it considered karen and only pays chatzi nezek? Why wasn't Rabbi Yehuda mechayiv nezek shalom and considered chain? And for the Gemara, the achal v'hader polis, because what happened was it didn't eat it together. First it ate the bread, then it came back and ate the basket. So the eating of the basket is surely not chain; it's karen you pay chatzi nezek. Are you telling me that it's the derech for behema to eat pas? As we just said with the story of Rav Yehuda or many, I'll prove to you that it's not the derech for a behema to eat pas. Because it says achla pas, ubasar, vitavshel, b'shalom chatzi nesek. So you see, it's not the derech to eat pas. My lava behema. Now the brayso that we just quoted doesn't say if it's talking about a behema or a chaya, but since it says it in such a broad general term, it should apply to even behema. Maybe this brayso is only speaking about a chaya. So a behema would eat bread, a chaya would not eat bread. Frankly, more can't be speaking about a chaya because it mentions basar. We know a chaya eats basar. A lion, a tiger, all these wild animals eat basar. Chaya, basar, uchehu. The matfi, speaking where it was barbecued. A chaya eats raw meat. He's teirif, but he's not going to eat barbecued meat. Maybe we're talking about a deer. A deer is also a chaya. But a deer is not a carnivore. So a deer is the animal that this Bryson might be talking about, that basar, tavshil, and pas would be shaloi kedarkoi, and therefore it's chatzin. Maybe it's being a behema. Why is pas not the derech from to eat? Ubipsaira. Psaira Rashi says shalosh shulchan. It's not time he ate bread. He ate bread. The table was set nicely. He walked over to the table and chapped bread off the table. It's funny because in this Miras on Shabbos, the bread is referred to psaira, right? It's not tampas, it's psaira. Psaira means it's set nicely on the table. That's not. I'm sorry, in those Miras? I was hoping Chaim's going to tell us. I'm sorry. It's in the skins dos. That's in the skins dos. Yeah, the skins dos. Zok to Gemara weiter. Now we were finally on today's daf at 6:18. We got to today's daf. Zok to Gemara. Hahu barcha. There was an ace, a goat. The chaza lifta apuma de dana. it saw a piece of lefus. What is lefus? Turnip? It's a leek. What? Turnip. Okay. The chaza lifta apuma de dana, and they got so excited it had to happen. Sarich, it climbed over. Is a circling climb? How does that sound? I'm sorry? Part its way. And Salak climbed up, Ochla lifta, and in the process, Vitavri Ladana, it broke the barrel. Chayve Rava Alifta Vadana Nezek Shol. Because all this was done B'derech Achila. My timer. My timer. Even the Urche Lamecha Lifta, Urchenami Lisruche Lemis. Just like it's the derech to eat, it's derech is to go and get to wherever it needs to get to in order to eat in your Chayiv Nezek Shalom. It falls under strain. Omer Ilfa. Behema b'shus harabim. What if you had a behema that was b'shus harabim? Uposh that zavor, it stuck its head over onto another animal. The top of an animal would likely be considered a b'shus hayachid. So you have two animals b'shus harabim. One has a big basket of grain in it, and the other animal leans over and eats from the basket that's on top of the other animal. So he is in b'shus harabim, but he's eating from what would be b'shus hayachid. Chayev es chay. My timer. He did the damage in the chasar nizek. Maybe we can bring a proof to ilfas halach. If someone had a basket, a knapsack hanging over his shoulder that he was carrying, and an animal leaned into his knapsack and ate from it, the owner of the animal will be chayav to pay. Maybe you don't have a raya. You don't have a raya that when the animal is standing in Rishus Harabim and it sticks its head into Rishus Hayachid to eat, maybe you don't have a raya that you're chayiv. Because maybe that is in another situation, Rava said it's speaking b'koifetzes. Here also we could say it's koifetzes. What is koifetzes? So the top Rashi says shekavsa va'achla al tzavara she'ein darka b'kach. So I'm not sure what this means. Does that mean the behemoth actually jumped on the neck of the other animal? Oh, I'm sorry? So one cow literally jumped on top of the other cow? They told her the carinu, but whatever it is, it's not the normal way the cow would eat, and therefore it falls under the class of karen, the chayev is chatzin nezaka. Sorry?
He says he's standing in the
He's standing in the Rishus Harabim. Well, for sure, the basket on them is. The Heicha Itmar, the Rava. Where did Rava say this halacha of kafetzes? Ahad Amar Rab Oishia behema b'shus harabim halcha v'achla. If it was tam eating as it's walking, which is its normal way, petura, it's potter because that's shein, and shein b'shus harabim is potter. But amda v'achla, if it stopped to eat, that's not its derech. Chayavis its chay. Frankly, more ma'isna halcha do urchehu amda nami urchehu. Why would you say that for an animal to pause while it's walking to eat something from the floor? Why would you say that that's not a derech? That is a derech, and it should be chayiv. Amarava b'kafet says, once again, it's speaking where the animal jumped and ate in an unusual way, and it's chatzi nezek that we're talking about when we say chayiv because of care.
It attaches the word the. Sometimes chayev is to be chatzin. Sometimes chayev is to be chatzin.
Correct. Chayev doesn't say
that it's Karen or red.
Well, in the Chanami. But if you're going to say it's Karen, you have to be able to explain why it should be Chayiv Karen, right? So if you have to explain that we're speaking in a case where the way it was eaten was in an unusual fashion. But observe, Misgalgal Mayu. Misgalgal is actually Machlokes Rashi and Tosfos. We'll learn it according to Rashi, but I'll mention how Tosfos understands. But observe, Misgalgal Mayu, it's rolling. Hey Chadomi, what is exactly that? The case of rolling? Going to Kaima Amir Rishus Hayachid. There's grain in Rishus Hayachid. They come as Galgal Va'asi Rishus Hayachid Rishus Harabim. Rashi learns the animal who's standing in Rishus Harabim pulls it out, rolls it out to Rishus Harabim, and then eats it in Rishus Harabim. And therefore Rashi learns the shaila is: do you go basar where the actual eating occurred, which was Rishus Harabim? Therefore the animal will be potter. Or do you go basar where he started getting it from, which was Rishus Hayachid, and therefore the owner of the ox will be chayiv? And therefore, Zok Rashi, you can have exactly the opposite shaila as well. What if the animal was standing in Rishus Hayachid and the food item was Rishus Harabim, and he dragged it inside and he ate it in Rishus Hayachid? Maybe you should be chayiv there because here he did it in Rishus Hayachid. That's how Rashi learns the Shiloh. Tosfos says miskalgal doesn't sound like the animal itself is moving it. It sounds like it's rolling on its own.
Okay.
And Tosfos has some other rise from Gemaras that doesn't make sense. So therefore, Tosfos learns that it's speaking where it was in Rosh Hashanah and it was rolling out to Rosh Hashanah, and had nothing happened, had the animal not gotten involved, all this that he ate would have ended up in Rosh Hashanah. But what the animal did, the animal ate it in Rosh Hashanah while it was on its way out. So do you say, since it was on its way out, it's considered like it's in Rosh Hashanah and it should be potter? Or do you say, Lamaita, he ate it inside? Based on that approach, you cannot say that the Shaila goes the opposite way. If it was in Rosh Hashanah and it was on its way rolling into Rosh Hashanah, and he ate it in the Rosh Hashanah, because there for sure he would be potter. Shaila here is, do you potter it because anyway it was going to be going into Rosh Hashanah, even though he ate it in the Rosh Hashanah? What is Allah? Toshma. The Tani Rabchia. Basoi. If there was a knapsack, it was lying right on the border between the Rosh Hashanah, the Tzara Nizik, and the Rosh Hashanah. Achla b'fnim. If the animal ate the fnim, chayeves it's chayev. Achla b'chutz p'tura. My love, what is the case? Because it's not really much of a chiddush to say that what he ate on the inside is inside, what he ate on the outside is outside. It's possible. So what does the brisa really mean to teach us? Miskal govasi. It's speaking where it was rolled. The animal was rolling it out. And what is it telling us? What it's telling us is so you go basar where you ate it. You go basar ultimately where you ate it. You don't focus on where it came from. So you have a raya to the shaila of miskalgal. That's not what it means to say. Maybe it means literally. If the animal ate the part that was inside and it stayed inside, there it would be chayiv. And if the animal ate the part that was outside and it stayed outside, there it would be potter. Or you can offer another shot in the brisa. Kikam Rab Chia is the psila das pasta. It's speaking in the case of psila das pasta, which means it's very long. It's long grains, and if it's long grains, if the animal's out and half of the grain is on the inside, half of the grain is on the outside, and the animal is on the outside and starts chewing it from the outside, and as he's chewing, it'll pull the whole thing out. That's called kulay b'chutz. Because since it's one long thing and the part that he bites is the ikar and everything else is nigra basar, what he's chewing on, that's where it's potter. But if it's individual kernels, some are inside, some are outside, there we still have the shaila of miskalgal. Do you look at the point where the food started, or do you look at the point where the animal actually ate? So this is the shaila that we mentioned in the Gemara. The Mishnah says that we mentioned when we were learning the Mishnah. The Mishnah says, and we had a shaila, is that going on the shein halacha when the animal was eating what it normally eats, or is that going on the keren component when the animal ate ksus l'kelim? Because the shaila was, if it's ksus l'kelim, which is keren, it should be chayiv even b'shus harabim. That was the shaila that we had. So ahaya, amar akulu, it's going on everything, even on the keren. And if the keren was eaten b'shus harabim, if the ksus and the kelim were eaten b'shus harabim, the owner of the shor will still be potter. My timer. Why should it be potter? The Teretz says even keren has its limitations. Because kolam shana uba'achar v'shina boy potter. If someone does something that's outrageous, like put his beged in rishus harabim, and then a keren occurs on it, meaning an animal eats it, which is mishuna because it's not food, there the perpetrator will be potter. Zokt Rashi.
They have food
That's an outrageous thing to do.
Who says?
I'm sorry? How
He
did
was
it get there?
He was walking on the street and the behind was just walking out. It was shun and it's time.
That's not what the Gemara says. The Gemara assumes that it was on the floor. So you're assuming he ate it off a person? Right. So the Gemara obviously doesn't consider that option because the Gemara says it's speaking about he niach susah, right? So what would be if he ate it off a person? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe that would be Karen. Ushmul Amar, that's not a Mishana. It's not a Mishana. Ushmul Amar, Lo Yishanu Ela Peres V'Yirakas. That we say, which is a Rab Mitzpotter, is only shame. Avoksus V'Kelim, which is Karen, which is Chayiv, even if it's not normal, Fakeret, only if it's not normal, Chayeves. So we have a Machlokes, if you say Kala Mishana, he's already forfeiting his option to be able to collect on damages. V'chinam Rish Lakish, Akulu. Rish Lakish also says it's going Akulu, like Rav said, and that there's a rule of Kala Mishana, Ubarach Meshina by Potter. But Rish Lakish actually has another place where he also paskins with this svara of Kala Mishana. Damar Rish Lakish, Shtei Paris B'Shus HaRabim. There are 2 oxen, cows in B'Shus HaRabim. Achas Revutza. One cow was lying on the floor, definitely a Mishana. V'yachas Maleches, and the other one was walking. Bata Maleches Revutza. The walking one did Karen, kicked the Revutza. Turach Potter. Why is it Potter? Because this animal was lying on the floor. It's a Mishana. Revutza b'Maleches. If the lying ox kicked the Maleches, Chayeves, it would be Chayev. Because the walking ox is not doing anything unusual. So therefore, if it gets kicked by the Revutza will be Chayev. So here's Rish Lakish Shita. Rabbi Yochanan argues on Rish Lakish, and he holds like Shmuel, Lo Yishanu Ela Peres V'Yirakas, Avoksus V'Kelim Chayeves, it's regular care. Zog to Gemara, we see Rabbi Yochanan argues in our Mishnah, and he holds that the Ksus V'Kelim would be potter on. Would he agree with Rish Lakish's halacha by paras? Leme Rabbi Yochanan, last lady Rish Lakish, afilu b'shtei paras. Maybe Rabbi Yochanan would disagree with Rish Lakish. In the case of 2 paras, he would hold that if the walking ox kicked the lying ox, it would be chayiv. Zok to Gemara loy. Lo'olam islay. He holds over Rish Lakish, and in the case of the 2 paras, he would also patter the owner of the kicking par. But ksus is different. Because ksus avdi inchi de machi glimi umitach. It's not common, but it happens from time to time that when people stop to rest, they'll take off their clothing and put them on the ground. So even though it's not regular normal, but it happens from time to time, and therefore it's considered normal enough that it's not mishana, and therefore there would be a chi of Karen for it, even in Rosh Hashanah. Abu Behema, but a behema lying down in the middle of the street, this completely outrageous, that never happens, that's a real mishana, lav urcha, and therefore, you will agree with Rish Lakish that if the walking animal kicked the lying animal, the owner of the walking animal was punished. The im nehenis mishalemes mashin nehenis. The kamo.
I would say, yeah, when people putting the Bahamas, that's
okay. Okay, look to Bava. The kamo. Rabba Omar demei amir. How much do you pay? What's mashin nehenis? Straw. Normally, what are you going to, a bundle of straw? What are you normally going to feed your animal? Straw, not barley, not wheat, which is quality stuff. Actually, I'll stick to barley. You don't pay them the value of barley, you pay the value of straw, much less than the value of what he eats. Rav Amar, Demei Sa'arim V'Zul. Maybe you have to pay him for barley, but you're not going to go buy barley in Pushateries and give him the best barley, even if that's what he eats. You'll go buy barley when it's cheap, when it's on sale, when there's a blowout. So that's the type of barley you would, in other words, if there's a case where barley was very cheap, you would buy it. That's how much you would pay the owner of this barley that you eat, even though his barley was worth much more. Tanya Kavasei the Rabba and Tanya Kavasei the Rav. Tanya Kavasei the Rabba, Rab Shimon ben Yochi Omer, Ein Mishalemas Elodame Amar Bavad, you only pay the value of a bundle of straw. Tanya Kavasei the Rabba, Im Nehenis, Mishal Mash Nehenis, Ketzad, Achla Kav, Oikabayim, Ein Oimrim Tishalam Domain, you pay their full value. Elo Oimrim Kama Odem Roitzel, Hachal Behemtoi, Dover Haroyala, Afal Bisheni Rav. You'll see how much would someone pay to serve his animal something that it could eat, that's good for it, even though it's not something that he would normally buy. So these are the 2 shitas of Mashanans. But taking it a step further, leficha ochel chitin, which is completely not good for the animal, and no one would ever serve their animal chitin, oy dover harala, or anything else that's not good for the animal, betur your potter and ganzen, because you were not in the henna, because it's something that was unhealthy for the animal. This is a fascinating story. So let's remember this conversation is between Reb Chisda and Rami Bar Chama. Reb Chisda told Rami Bar Chama, what a shame, you weren't with us in the tchum, So either it was Shabbos and they had a discussion on Shabbos that he missed, or maybe it means he just wasn't in the Besmedrash. Those are the two pshatim Rashi says. Because you missed the Geshmak Shaila that we were discussing in the Besmedrash. The Boilan Midim Al Yosef. We had a Geshmak Shaila, good stuff, and you missed it. Omar, so Rami Bar Chama said to Reb Chisda, my Milim Al Yosef. What was the Geshmak Shaila? Let me hear. Omar, this is the Shaila. Hador b'chotzer chaveiroi shaloi midaita. Someone squats in his friend's chotzer without his friend knowing it, without permission. Sorach lahalos loischar or ein sorach. Does he have to pay rent for the night? Hechadam. What was the case? Ileme b'chatzar doloi kaim al. It's a property that he had no intention of renting out. It wasn't for rent. And v'gavr doloi avad l'meger. And it's a guy who freeloads. He has plenty. He does couch surfing. He has plenty of places where he can sleep. He can even sleep in the Besmedrash. He would never pay. He would never pay anyway. He'd find another place to stay. So then why in the world should you be Mechayev? The squatter is not Henna because he can go somewhere else. And it's not like you're trying to rent it out because of you couldn't. You weren't renting it out anyway. Let's say it's a chotzer that you are looking to rent it out. And because the squatter was there, nobody inquired on the property because it looked like it was occupied. The Gavra, the Ovid Lameger, and it's a guy who would pay normally for a hotel for the night. So then, surely he should be mechuyev. It's a chotzer that is normally not rented out. The Gavra, the Ovid Lameger, but it is a person who would normally want to charge. I'm sorry, but it's a person who would normally pay for a hotel. So he's nana, but he's like chotzer. What do you say? Matzi amalei my chasarticha. Can the squatter say, I didn't make you lose? What did you lose? You weren't renting it out anyway. Or maybe the owner of the property can say, you had enough from me. So the Shaila Zen hand of Zelach, that was the Shaila that Reb Chisda told over to Rami Bachama that was discussed in the Besmedrash and he missed it. So Rami Bachama says, I don't know what your big Shaila is. Masnisani. Big Shaila, it's a Mefurish Mishnah. I must listen. Reb Chisda asked Rami Bachama, where do you find a Mishnah that discusses this? You think I'm going to tell you for free? If you want Torah from me, in order for you to be Makabal Torah for me, you have to be Machnir yourself. What's so funny? All right. L'chita shamish li, you have to service me. So what did he do? Shakal sudrei karachle. He took his handkerchief and he folded it up for him. He provided a service for him. I don't think he was charging for his Torah. He probably said, in order for you to be Makabal Torah from somebody, you have to be Machnir yourself to them. Amalei, I'll tell you where it says in the Mishnah. Our Mishnah we just learned. Im nehanis. If the animal had hanoah from what it ate in Rishus Harabim, even though it's part of him Nezikin, because you're not chayiv on chain for regular in Rishus Harabim, mishalamish mashinanis. He has to pay mashinanis. So you see, Zen Hena v'zel chosar pays mashinanis. Oh, so Omar Rava said, Rami B'chama has mazel. That Rami B'chama hat a mazel. A person who Hashem helps him out, he has no problems in life. He's not sick. He has no issues. He is oblivious to any type of problems. This Rabbi Bechama is a lucky guy. The Avagab, even though the Shaila has nothing to do with the Mishnah, Kiblamin Rabbi accepted from him. Rabbi Bechama is a lucky guy. He managed got away with murder. That's exactly what the Gemara asked. The Mishnah in the case of Zen Hena Zechosar is Peres got eaten. So the Maisa, what was Rabbi Bechama thinking? Rabbi Bechama holds Stam Peres B'Shus Harabim Afkurim Afkalim. This is not Chaser anymore. Once the Peres end up in Rishus Harabim, they're considered hefker. Rashi says, "V'loy Chaser Midi, v'loy Chiser Midi." He didn't lose anything. They're going to get destroyed in Rishus Harabim. But Toshus makes a very important point. Loy Lagamri, he can't be completely hefker. If he was mafker his payers, if it's mamash hefker, why do I have to pay anything at all? Elam misyayish mehem. The person whose payers are Rishus Harabim is misyayish from them. He assumes they're going to get trampled and therefore they will not be good until they become degraded, that even if I wanted to sell them, I couldn't sell them for more than mashinahands. So that's why you only pay mashinahands. So it's not mamish use, it means it's miyayish from its full value. Tanan, we learned that
I
mitzvah.
would say this is worse than that in Sham, because if you go to Shia for free, you don't remember. If you pay for the convention, then
I hear.
you mix this.
I hear. Could be. Tanan, I thought he wanted him to shamashim because then he should accept this faulty logic, like Rava said was specific. Okay. Tanan, hamakiv chaveri mishol shkufos. Somebody has 3 fields that are on 3 sides of his friend's field, as you see in the picture to the left in Rashi. And then the Gadar is a Rishonim and Shniv Ashlishis. Rashi learns that he fenced in the center field, let's call the center field the field of Shimon. He fenced him in on 3 sides. So he built a fence between his property and Shimon's property. The halacha is ein mechayv in oisai. You don't force Shimon to share in the expense of the fence. You know why? Because Shimon's property is still not guarded because the 4th side is open. So what good is a fence if there's a gap? Haravius, it's mashma that if Reuven actually made a fence around Shimon's 4th side, mechayv I say now you'll force Shimon to pay for the fence on all 4 sides. Sorry? That's things a robber could still get in. So Zoktimor Shemamina, you see from here, Zenehena, Vizelechas or Chayiv. Because even if I made a fence on all 4 sides, I didn't lose anything. I wanted the fence for my field to protect my field from you. So Zenehena Vizelechas. So why should Shimon be Chayiv? Sorry? Why? The reason why I make the fence is to separate me from Shimon. You're right. The 4th one I didn't need. But once I make the 4th one, now you could say this benefited Shimon. So he's the Henna. So Shimon's the Henna now. And so you're right. For the 4th fence, it's not a rise, then Henna is the The rise from the first 3 fences, and I'm happy you brought that up, because Rashi actually specifically points that out. So if you look at Rashi Revius, the Godron, Machayev is Shimon losses his chelkoi, the Mechitos have Pnimiyoi Shebeinoi L'Ruven. 1 second. It's 6:41. 6:41. So the 9 minutes are starting. So I'm saying capital Tehillim. Shalom Allah says, "Ein Elohim Ein Yov Yezri Ezra Mimad Einoi Yosei Shemaim Haaretz Hayitei Lamot V'Lech Al Yom Shemechi Le'Le'Onim V'Yishad Shem Yisrael Adon Shemecha Adon Silcha Yad V'Necha Yom Hashem Shloikech V'Yirach V'Leilo Adon Yishmach Mekar Yishma Shavshecha Adon Yishma Tzescha V'Echa Mata Adolam. Our learning should be a schus that we should be zeicher to all those spoils of the 999. Zok to Gemara. So you see from here, Zen Hanim Zelechas Chayiv. So no, shiny Hasam the Amalei at Garam Tali Hekefa Yisera. You caused me.
The 4th one, but on the 4th field also. So that's what he said.
That's right. In the Clement. It doesn't matter. But
You had a 4th field. Why does it show that in the picture? So this is only to show.
Okay. So Zok Gemara, the Amalei at Garam Tali Hakefa you say. What does that mean? The Elav Sada Shal Shimon Bein Seidoisa. If your field wasn't in between my fields, have a Sagale b'mechitzos chitzoinach. The outer mechitzos around my field, which separates me from the rest of the world, would have been enough. Bava calls a dose of Gedurim, and all my sadots would have been properly guarded. But because of your field, I'm forced to make another 4 fences. It's not called Zenhena V'Zelechazar, it's called Zenhena V'Zechaz. Tosh was asked the question, what do you mean At Garamtali Akei for Yisera? It's mashma that you caused me to have to do a little more. It's much worse. You caused me to build all 4 fences. So Tosh learns that there's never a discussion about the fence in between Reuven and Shimon. Reuven made a fence around his perimeter. And he's telling Shimon, yes, it's not right at the border of your field, but my fence around my perimeter is still indirectly protecting you. Because if the terrorists can't get into my property, they're not going to be able to get into your property either. So Reuven was wanting Shimon to pay for his fence around his property. And then he could say, because of you, I had to go around your fence as well. So that's how Tosha looks. So if we look at Tosha Elnira, Shemi Bechut Soviv L'Dalad Ruchay Sikif. The cave Yisera Mishmush Machmas today I'm sorry, heck of God Yosy Midai. Meaning, I have 3 acres. Normally, for 3 acres, I need a smaller fence. But now my 3 acres, since your field is in the middle, the fence that I need for my 3 acres is much bigger. So that's what his time is at Garam Tali Hekefa Yisera. So Zen Hena Vizechos. Okay. Tashma, Rabbi Yosy. Rabbi Yosy comes and argues. Sorry? And Nechadami, yeah. Tashma, Rabbi Yosy. Rabbi Yosy said, Im Omad Nikev Vigadar Servius. Rabbi Yosy argued in Tanakama. And he said that if Shimon himself said, hey, you did 3 sides, I'm going to do the 4th side, then Megalgalin Allah of Esak. Then you force him to pay his fair share of the other 3 sides. Zok Rashi, why? Because Goli Adaite the Nichale Be'Kefo Ruben. It clearly shows that he's happy with what happened there. And therefore, Megalgalin Allah as a coil losses as Chelkoi Begimel Mechitzois Pinimiois Shal Ruben. So Zok more Taima the God of Nikov. Only because the Nikov himself made the 4th side. Hamakif, if the Makif did it, Potter, because he's arguing on the Tanakam. Shemamina, you see, at least Rabbi Yosy holds, Zenehena, the Zelech is Potter. And really, even the Chachamim agreed to it, but the only reason why they say Chayiv is because of the Svar of Atkaram to the Kefa Yisera. But other than a special factor, a special mitigating factor, the default would be Zenehena, the Zelech would be Potter. So we're no. Shani Hasam, the Amarle, Lididi Sagili, Benetira, Bar Zuzah. Exactly. I could have had a chain link fence. I didn't need such an expensive fence. So therefore, this is not called Zenehena. This is called Zeloinen. Because I didn't need your stone fence, which is so much more expensive. I would have been happy with a simple fence, and that's why, according to Rabbi Yosy, he doesn't have to pay. Okay, gewaltig. Zog to Gebar weiter. Tashma. Habayis ve'aliyah shel shnayim. So Reuven lived on the main level, Shimon lived on the top level of a duplex. Shenaflu, and the building collapsed. Amr Balaliyah, the Balaliyah said, Labalabayis live nice. You know what? We got to rebuild. But I can't rebuild the 2nd floor until you rebuild the 1st floor. And I can't afford to build 2 floors. Behind the right. But the Balayis, the 1st level guy, Reuven didn't want to build. Hare Balaliyah Boinabayis, he could build a single level home. The Yoshiva, and he has a right to live in there rent fee until the Balabais pays for the expense of building that bias, and then the Balaliyah will build his aliyah on top of that. All we're going to ask the Balabais to pay for is the expense. But if the Balabais is going to pay for it, that means it's the Balabais' house, so why can't he now demand rent from the Balaliyah? You lived in my house for 6 months. I want you to pay me rent. The Balabais cannot demand rent from the Baal Halaliyah, who's living in his house rent free. Shemami, no, you see from here. Sorry, he built it. Doesn't make a difference. He was just lending the money basically to the Baal Habayis. Shemami, no, Zenehena, Zelech Potter. It must be that Zenehena, Zelech Potter, because the Baal Habayis didn't lose anything. He didn't care. He didn't get out of the house. So therefore, you see Zenehena, Zelech Potter. If no, Shani Hasam, the base Laliyah Mishtabit. In every arrangement with a bias and aliyah, there's a shibud on the bias to build a bias so that there can be an aliyah. So I have a shtickle right to live in your house because of the shibud that you have to build the bias so that I can build my aliyah. Tashma, this guy is living in, any guy who's living in his friend's chatzah, he's got to pay. So basically, Rabbi Yehuda held that the Baal Aliyah has to pay rent to the Baal Habayis. Shemami, no, you see from him. We know that when you move into a freshly painted house, it's the shmak. After 6 months of him cooking there and doing his things, the walls are going to get dirty, and it's not zechasar. The Baal Habayis is not going to pay for a house, but it's going to come used. Therefore, he's entitled to payment. Shalchua b'mei Rabami. There are those who curse b'mei Rabami. The Shaila came up in the days of Rabami, some people in Bay Rabami, and Omar, he said about the Shaila of Zenehen of Zelech. He says, I don't understand. In other words, I think Zenehen of Zelech should be potter. Omar, we're going to think about it. When they asked him, the Shaila, he said, I got to think about it. again, maybe a little while later, they again sent him the same shaila. Amar again, he said, "Kula hai shalchali v'azli." You're hacking me a child and asking the same question over and over again. I know there's a shaila. Ilu ashlicha b'tayma lo shalchanu lahu. You don't think that if I would have found an answer to your shaila, I wouldn't have responded? If I didn't respond, don't bug me. It just means I haven't found a raya to paskin. Itma Rav Kahana Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Ein tzarich lalos l'schar. Zen hen v'el chaser is potter. Rabbi Vo Amar Rabbi Yochanan tzarich lalos l'schar. Amar Papa Had Rabbi Vo lav b'ferish itmar el mecholid. Rabbi Vo did not hear Rabbi Yochanan say black and white that tzarich lalos l'schar. He heard Rabbi Yochanan say something else, and from there he figured out that he holds that the hen v'el chaser is potter. What happened? The Tanan we learned. There was a gizbar who's in charge of hektish, and therefore a gizbar, if he uses anything illegally, he's not moil, because you're only moil when you're moichit mishus hektish. But the gizbar is mishus hektish. So therefore, not the evan like karish hektish. If a gizbar took an evan or a beam of hektish, harayz aloy moil, because the gizbar is mishus hektish. But nothing lechaveira. If the gizbar gave it to somebody else, thinking that it wasn't shal hektish, then he caused it to leave hektish as rishus by giving it to his friend. Then who moil the gizbar is moil for being moichit from mishus hektish lechaveira lemoil. What about banal sech beisa? What if the gizbar built it into his own house? Building it into his house was not coined. It was not coined. So until he actually has a no from it by sitting underneath it and getting shame worth the shavapruta, we'll say he was not moil. And Shmuel said, that's only if you put it over a window, you didn't mamish build it in, it was just sitting there, so it wasn't nikna to you because it was just sitting there. So therefore you were not coined. But you see that sitting under a beam having a no is mamish a case of zenahena, zelachaser, right? And you see, even though zenahena zelachaser, it's called me'ilah. So you see that it's called zenahena zelachaser is going to be chayiv because I'm moil. Just like by hektish, we say I took something from hektish because I was moil and I have to pay back just by having a no from something, even though there's no chasarid to the beam. The Yosef Rabbi Vo Kamed Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Vo heard Rabbi Yochanan say this, and he commented, the comment Mishmei the Shmuel, and he told Rabbi Yochanan, "Oh, this stem is very good with what Shmuel said. Zoyse Meres Hadar B'Chatzach Haver Shleimidaita Tzarich Lalach V'Schar V'Shasekle." And Rabbi Yochanan didn't respond. Iu Savar. Rabbi Vo thought, "Midashasek Moidalei." Since Rabbi Yochanan didn't respond, he agreed. Yeah, you have a good ride from here. But really, it's not true. Rabbi Yochanan totally disagreed with Rabbi Vo. He totally ignored the comment of Rabbi Vo because he was totally wrong. The Rabba, like Rabba said, the Rabba hektish shaloi midas ke hektish midas dam. Hektish without any das is like hedit midas, and therefore, even though it's ten hendes chaser, by hektish though would be a chumrah. So Rashi, the hektish leka lemeimar shaloi midas, the das shchina ika hilchach ke hedit midas dami, and therefore you don't have a raya from Rabbi Yochanan's halacha that ten hendes chaser would be chayiv.
You should have said it's out at 6:49. Which might have this learned.
What does hektish lemidas mean? Where is the halacha actually said?
No, what does it mean?
Hektish lemidas.
Don't you hektish lemidas? Red what some I not genutzt.
Right.
Hektish is like what's meant the hektish lemidas? Hektish lemidas meant episode when somebody's magdish. No, I don't know.
So that's a good point. Let's think. So what is exactly the touch of hektish shalom midas? So let's hear Rashi. Zoy say Mary. Let's hear Rashi.
When einer hat it's a property, weiß ich wie nennt Arik und setzen.
So let's read Rashi before. Let's hear Rashi. Zoy say Mary. With the katani the chidar tachtel chayiv the avagav the shalom midas hektish avad. It did it shalom midas hektish. It's still going to be chayiv. The hektish lek lemem shalom midas da shchina ika hirach kehedi midas. Let me see let's see what the Moshe Rashi says. The chidar tachtel ma the avagav. The loishanya, he didn't make a shinu. Hador b'chatzach haver shaloi midas bailim. Tzarich l'alach l'schar. Afilu b'chatzach l'kaim l'agra. The hava lezen nehenev zelichaser. Why? The hacha shaloi midas hektish dar. He lived there without das hektish. The ka'amar the mishalam mil hektish. When the kamar zoy semerish shmami na yalef hedit mehektish l'dakik acharav. Oh, so basically, all it's saying is that you're comparing hektish to hedit. Hektish is different than hedit, and it has a separate set of rules.
Zu wollen, nehmen es aus, kann sagen, wo ich ist, aber heck, das ist gesagt, weil der Bunch weiß alle. Das ist nicht Kelly, wenn es liegt in der Gizbus aus, als der Balabus von Hegel weiß nicht, weiß viel.
So let's see Toshis I believe says, okay, had you das Tommy Pircha conjures, the dash Shchina Ika, the Kasha, the Shalom Midaita lav dafka, Elo Urcha the Milsanakat, who didn't Midaita, Elo Nira, Kehedi Midas Dami, Kloimar, the dash Shchina Ika, Shalo Yehana Adam, Beloy Mila. The dash Shchina is you can never have a no without Mila, even though it's Loy Chazar.
But then again, no.
It was from 641 to 650. There's 9 minutes that are the 9th day, the 9th month, the 9th hour, the 9th month, 9th day, 9th hour. So here's like the 9th month, because it shows Samanias, that's what in the rule, it's in the afternoon. But I don't know if it's telling in the rule, could be telling in America, so we have to do it again. So this afternoon, we gotta go by 649. So this is the result. This is brought down from. That's right. So it brings down. We don't know. I'm going to be before mincha. Do you say Pusach Aliyah every day? So it says you should say Pusach Aliyah before mincha. Not sure what. I don't know what it's about. You know what Pusach Aliyah is about? What? It's a long stickle. Shmuel, you say it. What is it? Do you ever know? You know what I mean? You know what I mean?